In the heart of the vast Zahram palace, billionaire Sheikh Omar Al-Fahad's cold, commanding presence filled the room, like the desert sun that scorched his vast emirate. Yet beneath his usual impenetrable facade, a flicker of unease stirred. A fragile disruption in the silence he ruled so fiercely. The sprawling chamber shimmered with gold veins running through marble floors. Intricate silk drapes whispered secrets over carved cedarwood doors. And a subtle scent of jasmine and oud permeated the air. Outside, the endless dunes rolled like an ocean under the burning sky. Distant calls of falcons marking the dawn. But inside, time seemed suspended between opulence and tension. Slowly, a soft flutter broke the stillness. Layla's eyelids blinked open, revealing eyes wide with shock as they took in the lush surroundings. The plush silk sheets felt alien against her bare skin. The cool marble under the bed frame reminded her that she was no longer in the modest quarters where she had once lived and served. Her heart pounded as the weight of her new reality settled like a desert storm. She was no longer just the Sheikh's maid. Somehow the line between master and servant had vanished overnight. Her mind raced with the memory of last night's moments, an unexpected closeness that challenged everything she knew of herself, and the formidable man beside her. Omar lay silent, his chiseled face shadowed by sleep, yet even in rest, he radiated power. His chest rose slowly, betraying neither regret nor triumph. But Layla caught the faintest tremor in his fingers, an unguarded sign of a man battling forces he dared not show. The billionaire Sheikh awoke with a measured breath, his eyes opening to meet hers, briefly ignited by a fire no longer content to stay hidden. He pushed away the cold arrogance that shaped him, yet the fierce pride behind his gaze refused to surrender completely. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly, voice low but firm, a warning wrapped in restraint. But Layla, trembling yet defiant, lifted her chin. "Neither should I," she whispered, "and yet, here I am." Between them, the vast gulf of power and vulnerability stretched taut like a string ready to break, yet humming with electric possibility. His attempts to maintain icy control clashed with the warmth spreading from stolen glances and subtle touches, each loaded with questions neither dared voice aloud. As the morning sun cast long rays through the carved lattice, Layla's eyes caught a glimmer on the ornate nightstand, a delicate gold pendant engraved with the symbol of Zahram's royal lineage. Her fingers brushed it, a sudden chill crawling down her spine. This was no ordinary artifact. It was a key to secrets far darker than opulence or desire. Her breath hitched as muffled voices drifted from beyond the heavy doors, whispers of betrayal, of debts owed in blood, and bargains struck in shadow. The fragile bond flickering between servant and sheikh was suddenly threatened by forces neither had anticipated. Omar's gaze hardened as he sensed her discovery, the thin veil of control slipping. His world of wealth and status teetered on a knife's edge, caught between pride and passion, light and shadow. Before the next secret of this desert kingdom unfolds, make sure you're part of our caravan of stories. So many destinies still to be written, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. If this billionaire sheikh's heart has already caught your attention, leave a like. Tell me in the comments, which city are you following this saga from, and what twist do you think awaits? Your passion for these dramas inspires us to keep going. Thank you for being with us. The gold pendant lay cold beneath Layla's fingertips, its intricate engraving casting faint shadows in the morning light. Her breath trembled, not just from the chill sliding along her spine, but from the weight of the secret it promised. This symbol was no mere decoration. It held the power to unravel empires. Omar's eyes darkened as he stepped closer, the air around him thick with silent command. He reached to brush the pendant away, but Layla's hand shot up, stopping him with a determination that surprised them both. "Don't," she whispered, voice steady despite the storm raging within her. This belongs to Zahram's past, a past we both need to confront." His gaze bore into hers, the fierce pride softened by a flicker of vulnerability. "You've overstepped," he said, voice low, a warning wrapped in something that almost sounded like regret. Yet beneath it lay a grudging respect, an acknowledgement of the woman standing before him, no longer merely a servant, but a force he could neither control nor ignore. Layla's pulse quickened as realization dawned. They were no longer simply master and maid. Between them, something fragile yet undeniable had been forged in the shadows of Zahram Palace walls. An unspoken bond woven out of secrets, fear, and a shared sense of danger. The heavy doors creaked, the distant voices returning, murmurs coated with menace. Omar's hand tightened into a fist at his side, the tension in the room snapping taut like a drawn bowstring. "They think we don't see, Layla, but they mistake fear for weakness. We are watching now." Fear draped itself over her like a suffocating veil, yet beneath it lay a spark of defiance. For the first time since her arrival, she met Omar's fire with her own steady flame. "Then let them watch, let them think we're fragile." Her words were a challenge, a promise. "We're not." He regarded her in silence, the distance between them charged with unspoken truths. She had shattered the walls he'd spent a lifetime building, yet he found himself inexplicably drawn to the cracks and crevices she revealed. A vulnerability no wealth or power could mask. Suddenly, the faint melodies of the palace's morning prayers drifted through the air, silencing the distant whispers. Omar's gaze flickered to the lattice window, where the harsh sun spilled over the sands, illuminating layers of dust suspended in the air. The harsh light seemed to mock the shadows between them. Layla's mind twisted through memories, moments stolen in the quiet, the fleeting warmth of his brush against her skin, the cold steel beneath the surface of his smile. She wondered how a man so powerful could be bound by invisible chains, tradition, duty, secrets that clawed at his soul in the dead of night. "Why are you here, Layla?" His question cut through the silence, not accusatory, but raw with the gamble of vulnerability. "Not just in this room, but here." He placed a hand over his chest, where no one else is allowed. Her throat tightened. "Because I'm no longer just a shadow behind the curtains, Omar. I'm part of your world now, whether you admit it or not. His expression softened for the briefest heartbeat, revealing a flicker of something almost tender. Then the mask returned, a face honed by 1,000 battles of power and control. This world, it will swallow you whole if you're not careful. Her resolve did not waver. I'm not afraid anymore. A slow, almost imperceptible nod passed between them, an acknowledgement that their fates were entwined far beyond the opulence surrounding them. Yet even as they found solace in this unspoken understanding, neither dared voice the question that loomed in the oppressive silence. Outside, shadows lengthened as the palace stirred to life. Footsteps echoed nearby. Confidants, spies, enemies woven tightly into the court's gilded web. Somewhere beyond those walls were whispers sharper than knives, secrets darker than any jewel resting in Omar's vault. He moved then towards the heavy cedar doors, fingers lingering on the carved patterns, before turning back to her. There are debts to be paid, deals made long before you or I walked these halls. His voice lowered, heavy with unseen burdens. If this pendant means what I fear, you may be the only one who can save us both. Her eyes widened. Save you? His glance was piercing, weighty with the promise of battles to come. For power, for love, for survival. Yes, or destroy us. Layla swallowed hard. 1,000 questions pressed against her lips, but she held silent. The venomous threads of court intrigue were tightening, and she was caught at the center. Stepping forward, Omar reached out, hesitating just a moment before his fingers brushed hers over the pendant once more. The contact was electric, sparking a cascade of emotion neither had expected so soon. I will protect you, he promised quietly, though whether to shield her from danger or from himself, the words hung between them like a fragile vow. In that fleeting connection, the unyielding Sheikh's icy armor cracked, if only for a moment, and Layla glimpsed the man behind the myth, bruised, haunted, aching for something real amid the duplicity. A sudden sharp rap echoed against the marble chamber, the tension snapping in an instant. The heavy doors burst open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadow, an emissary from the rival clan. Face obscured but intent unmistakable, Omar straightened, his voice cutting through the thick air like a blade. Speak. The visitor's gaze flicked to Layla briefly, a cold smile curling beneath the veil of mystery. The game has changed, Sheikh. Your past is no longer just yours to command, and the truth this pendant holds will shatter the fragile peace you cling to. Layla shivered, heart pounding as the visitor's ominous words settled in like a desert storm rolling over endless sands. Omar's eyes locked with hers, fierce, determined. Prepare yourself, Layla. What comes next will demand more than courage. The visitor's cloak swept towards the door, fading into darkness as abruptly as it had appeared, leaving behind a pressing silence, thick with dread. Layla's fingers tightened around the pendant, the cold metal grounding her against the rising tide of fear. The palace now felt smaller, suffocating, as if its golden walls pressed in to whisper secrets only meant for death. She looked up at Omar, the man both her captor and protector. In his gaze, she saw something she'd never dared hope for before, a readiness to face the storm together. But beneath that shared resolve lay the unspoken truth, one that neither dared voice aloud, yet burned hot between them. Because in the shadow of their growing bond, an enemy was waiting. And the secret of the pendant was the spark that could ignite flames more devastating than either had imagined. The emissary's shadow dissolved into the labyrinthine corridors of Zahram Palace, dragging with him a silence heavier than the desert night. Omar's eyes lingered on the closed door, his jaw clenched so tightly the veins traced a map of hidden wars across his skin. Layla's fingers tightened around the pendant, the cold gold, a fragile anchor against the storm threatening to uproot everything they'd begun to trust. "Debts paid in blood," Omar murmured, voice rough with a simmering fury no one else had witnessed. His gaze turned to the vast window where the sun had climbed higher, scattering golden light over endless dunes. "This is no longer just politics, Layla. It's war. One fought not with armies, but with shadows and whispers." Layla swallowed, the taste of fear mingling with an unfamiliar surge of resolve. The weight of her new role pressed down mercilessly, yet beneath it, a spark of purpose flared. She was no longer the unseen maid folding linen in the quiet corners of the palace. She was part of this deadly dance now, whether she wanted to be or not. She looked up, meeting Omar's dark gaze. The layers of pride and pain hidden there were sharper than any blade. "What exactly does that pendant mean?" Her voice was steady, but inside, 1,000 questions echoed unanswered. "It's a symbol," Omar answered slowly, his fingers brushing the pendant once more, as if trying to draw strength from its ancient curves. "Of an alliance long broken, a pact made before Zahram was even a name on maps. The price for that betrayal was paid in secrets and bloodshed. And its truth, Layla, I fear it could crack this fragile piece to dust." The room seemed to shrink, the marble walls pressing in with whispers of conspiracies long buried. Layla's breath hitched as she imagined the forces pulling at the threads beneath the palace's gilded surface. Could a single secret really wield such power? Could she and Omar, bound by fragile trust and dangerous attraction, survive what was coming? He stepped forward, his presence overwhelming, his voice dropping to a whisper that felt like it could shatter glass. "You were never meant to hold this, Layla, yet here you are. Why?" Her eyes did not flinch. "Because the past doesn't stay buried when the future depends on the truth." For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them, dense and electric. Then Omar's expression softened, revealing the raw edges of a man, quietly exhausting the battle within himself. "You possess a strength few dare claim. But beware, the closer you get to the truth, the deeper the shadows grow." She nodded, her resolve hardening like desert stone. "Then we face those shadows together. A fragile alliance, forged not from trust, but from necessity. Yet beneath it, an unspoken fear throbbed, Could two souls from worlds so different survive the fire that threatened to consume them both? The distant echoes of palace life filtered through the heavy doors. Harsh laughter, hurried footsteps, and the scrape of whispered words like sharp knives in the twilight. Omar's gaze snapped to the entrance as a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. Khalid, the Sheikh's closest confidant, stepped into the light, his normally impassive face etched with worry. His eyes flicked to the pendant resting in Layla's palm. "Sheikh," Khalid said cautiously, voice low but urgent. "News from the southern borders. The Al-Mazri clan has not accepted the ceasefire. Rumors of an alliance with the northern rebels are spreading fast. If that pendant's secret is true, Zahram could be on the brink of annihilation." Omar's jaw tightened, the iron will beneath his silk robes hardening. "Then there is no time. We must act swiftly, before enemies outside turn into enemies within." Layla's heart pounded fiercely, caught between fear and an unexpected surge of determination. She had never imagined such stakes when she first set foot in the palace, her life once defined by servitude and silence. Now, she held a fragment of a storm that could unravel everything Omar had built, and that very power terrified her. "You understand this all too well," Omar said softly, voice laced with something tired but fierce. "I have borne the weight of my family's sins for decades, but even I could not have foreseen the cost." Her eyes searched his, catching a glimpse of the man beneath the legend, the scars beneath the silk, the burdens that never left his shoulders even in sleep. "Then let me carry some of that weight with you," she whispered, stepping closer until the heat of his body brushed against hers. Omar's breath hitched, the barrier between them thinning dangerously. The cold fortress around his heart trembled, and for a moment, vulnerability threatened to shatter his control. His voice was almost inaudible. "I don't know if I can protect you from what's coming, Layla, or from myself." A fragile smile touched her lips, bittersweet and defiant. "I don't want protection. I want to stand by your side." Before he could respond, the heavy doors burst open once again, the sharp clatter startling them both. A new presence sliced through the charged air. Maryam, Omar's sister, known in the palace for her icy demeanor and unyielding loyalty, entered, her eyes flickering with an unreadable fire. "You don't understand what you're holding, Layla," Maryam said, her voice cold but edged with something more dangerous. Warning or threat, Layla couldn't yet tell. "That pendant isn't just a key to secrets. It's a curse, and it's brought more death than any enemy could." Omar's expression tightened, and Layla felt the fragile bond between them pulse in the tense quiet. "What are you hiding, Maryam?" Omar's voice was low, the question sharp as a dagger. "Why guard this truth with silence and shadows?" Maryam's eyes flicked away, her voice dropping to a whisper meant for no. "One but them, because some truths, once unleashed, destroy everything. Sometimes, even the powerful must sacrifice love to save what remains." The words hung in the air, thick as desert dust. Layla's heart thundered against her ribs as the storm inside the palace swirled closer, inevitable, merciless. Omar's gaze locked with hers, burning with the unbearable weight of a choice no man should face. We will decide which truths can live and which must die. As the sun slipped behind a shroud of dust, bathing Zahram Palace in a red glow, a single thought flickered between them. The secret of the pendant was not just a key to the past. It was a trigger for a reckoning that would change everything. And somewhere deep inside the palace's labyrinth, where light dared not tread, the true enemy watched, waiting to strike. The heavy oak doors had barely closed when a suffocating silence crept over the chamber. Omar's sharp gaze lingered on the fading silhouette of the emissary, his jaw clenched tight enough to send sparks through the tension thick in the air. Layla's fingers never left the gold pendant's cool surface, as if gripping a lifeline within the swirling storm. This isn't just political maneuvering anymore, Omar finally broke the silence, voice low but steeped in bitter resolve. It's war with invisible blades, shadows that cut deeper than any sword. Layla's heart pounded fiercely against the steadiness she fought to maintain. She met his fierce stare, seeing in those dark depths scars no eye had the privilege or curse to witness. What exactly are we facing? Her voice was unwavering, even as her thoughts tumbled into unknown depths. Omar's breath was a slow haze as he traced the pendant's intricate engraving, fingers trembling ever so slightly. An ancient pact, shattered by betrayal and paid for in blood. This symbol holds the truth, the kind that can crumble kingdoms and drown peace in dust. The walls seemed to lean closer, whispering secrets long buried beneath layers of gold and lies. Layla's breath caught, imagination sparking images of conspiracies wrapped in silk and deceit, riding the desert winds. Could one relic really carry the weight to unravel everything? You weren't meant to hold this. Omar's voice broke across the room, thick with unease and awe. Why are you the one who carries its curse? Her eyes shone with quiet fire, unbowed even by the magnitude of her role now. Because some truths refuse to stay buried, because the future depends on them. For a long, suspended, breathe. Only their heavy breathing filled the space. Then Omar's walls cracked, revealing a glimpse of the man beneath the empire. A man silently battling the ghosts of his family, history, and duty. You have a strength that defies your origins, he said softly, voice wrapped in both admiration and caution. But beware, the closer you move to the light, the darker the shadows become. Layla's lips pressed into a firm line. Then we face those shadows, not alone, but together. The fragile alliance hung between them like a thread stretched taut across a chasm, poised to either bind or break. Footsteps echoed suddenly outside the chamber, quick, determined. Omar's sharp gaze darted immediately to the doors as the cold silhouette of Khalid appeared, his features grave. His eyes fixed on the pendant, like it was a beacon to awakening. Storms! Sheikh Omar! Khalid's voice was a graveled whisper. The southern borders are restless. The Al-Mazri clan refuses the truce, and rumors swirl of alliances forged in the dark with northern rebels. If this pendant's truth is as dire as feared, Zahram stands on the edge of devastation. A silent storm raged behind Omar's eyes, The velvet luxury of his robes could not hide the iron will blazing beneath. Then we act, before the enemy outside becomes the enemy within. Layla's pulse thundered with a strange mixture of fear and fierce resolve. A woman, no longer a mere shadow but a pillar standing in the eye of the tempest. Whatever price this truth demands, I won't turn away. Omar's gaze softened for a fleeting moment, as it connected with hers, so much unspoken in that shared look. I've carried the sins of my ancestors. For decades, he admitted, voice raw with exhaustion. But now the cost is more than I could have imagined. Her voice fell to a whisper, heavy with newfound courage. Then let me share your burden. She stepped nearer, the heat from her presence thawing some of the frozen fortress surrounding him. Omar's breath caught. Years of solitude seemed to waver under the weight of her words and touch. But before either could speak again, the chamber erupted as the heavy doors swung wide, splintering the fragile quiet. Maryam entered, her presence like a frozen gust of wind, sharp, unyielding. Her ice-blue eyes locked onto the pendant that gleamed in Layla's hand. Her lips twisted into a cold smile that didn't reach her gaze. You don't understand what you hold, Layla. Her voice sliced through the room, edged with something dangerous and bitter. This pendant isn't just a symbol, it's a curse. It has summoned more death than any army could. Omar stiffened, the fragile thread tethering him to Layla, pulsing with fraught uncertainty. What secrets are you protecting, Maryam? Omar's words were knives, sharp but restrained. Why bury truth beneath silence and shadow? Maryam glanced away briefly, voice lowering like a confession made to ghosts. Because some truths, once unleashed, destroy everything, even love. Sometimes, survival demands sacrifice. That silence that followed weighed like burning sand in their chests. Layla's heart raced as the palace's labyrinth around them whispered warnings and schemes, tightening the noose of fate. Omar's dark eyes never left hers, fierce and burdened, as if he carried a world of unbearable choices within. We must decide which truths live and which must die. Outside, the desert sun dipped behind a haze of dust, casting the palace in blood-red hues. A single thought flickered between them. The pendant's secret was no mere key to the past. It was the spark that could ignite a reckoning unlike any Zahram had ever known. Deeper in the bowels of the palace, in shadow's crevices where no light dared reach, a figure stirred. Eyes glinting with cold malice, the true enemy watched the fragile bond between Omar and Layla with burning intent, poised to strike when the world was most vulnerable. The air in the chamber thickened as Maryam's accusation hung like smoke, each word a blade slicing through the fragile veneer that had held Layla and Omar together just moments before. Layla's fingers clenched the pendant tighter, the cold metal burning against her skin with the weight of unspoken threats. Omar's eyes darkened, betraying the storm beneath. His calm exterior. Maryam, he said, voice low but carrying the raw edge of command. Your warnings are no doubt meant to protect, but your silence has only sharpened the danger we face. His gaze turned back to Layla, softening in a fleeting moment of trust. We cannot afford secrets any longer. The sister's lips pressed into a thin line, her icy facade cracking, just enough to reveal the ache beneath. "Some truths," Miriam whispered, "carry a price so high that even love falters." Outside, the golden light slipped through the latticework, casting shifting patterns on the marble floor, patterns reminiscent of the labyrinth in which they found themselves trapped. The scent of jasmine and oud filled the room, but it was overlaid with a tension so intense it clung to their skin like a storm's heat. Layla swallowed, stepping forward despite the knot twisting tight in her stomach. "I don't care what the cost," she declared, her voice steady but trembling beneath the strain. "If this pendant holds a truth that threatens everything, then I will shoulder that burden. Not just for you, Omar, but for this palace, this family." He stepped closer, the warmth radiating from his presence, both a comfort and a warning. "You speak with the courage of one who has nothing left to lose. But beware, Layla. The deeper you dig, the more the shadows fight to keep their secrets buried." Her eyes met his, fierce and unwavering. "Then let those shadows come. I'm not alone anymore." For a vulnerable moment, the impenetrable billionaire seemed less a ruler of empires and more a man caught between his duties and the fragile human connection blossoming in stolen moments. The heavy oak doors burst open again, a swirl of movement breaking the fragile stillness. Khalid appeared, his usually composed face etched with urgency. "Sheikh Omar," he said, voice edged with anxiety. "Our spies report increased movement near the southern border. The Al-Mazri clan's defiance grows, and worse, rumors of reinforcements from the northern rebels have been confirmed. These alliances threaten to unravel the ceasefire we've so desperately tried to maintain." Omar's jaw tightened, the tension palpable as he absorbed the weight of the news. "Then the storm approaches faster than we feared." His gaze flickered to Layla, whose fingers remained entwined with the pendant, a symbol of the peril threading through their lives. "There are forces within these walls as dangerous as those on the battlefield," he muttered. "Betrayal wears many faces." Layla's breath caught, the truth sinking into her bones. The palace, with all its opulence and grandeur, was a cage, golden and glittering, yet filled with lurking dangers and silent knives. A sudden knock shattered the moment. The doors creaked, revealing a figure cloaked in shadow, an advisor long trusted by Omar, but whose eyes gleamed with uncertainty. "Sheikh," the man said cautiously, "there is talk of a traitor among your closest council, a whisper that aligns certain insiders with the enemy." The room cooled as silence fell, a prelude to an unspoken threat. Omar's gaze sharpened, the fire behind his eyes burning hotter. "We dance on the edge of a blade." His voice was a whisper that commanded attention. "Trust is a currency more precious and more perilous than gold." Layla felt a chill ripple through her, despite the warmth filling the chamber. She was caught, not only between shifting alliances, but within the shards of a man who wielded power like a double-edged sword. The pendant pulsed faintly in her palm, as if alive with the secrets it held. Her fingers ached with the need to know, to unlock what had been hidden for so long. "Tell me everything you know," Omar commanded the advisor, stepping forward with the regal bearing that no storm could diminish. every name, every whisper. No secret is safe. As the advisor spoke, the cracks in the palace walls seemed to widen, not just of stone and mortar, but of loyalty and trust. The game was no longer about survival. It was about domination in a desert kingdom on the brink of collapse. Layla's thoughts swirled. Could a maid-turned-confidant help steer this sinking ship? She had stepped beyond her role, drawn into a world where a wrong word could mean death. Omar's eyes found hers again. The storm clouds, in their depths, softened by a flicker of hope. "We fight together," he said quietly, "or we fall apart alone." The moment shattered as the chamber doors opened once more. This time, it was a messenger, breathless and shaken. "Sheikh," he gasped, "there's been an attack on your private convoy. Several guards lost." The message left behind was clear. Deliver the pendant, or watch everything burn. Time seemed to freeze. Omar's lips pressed into a thin line, but the fire lighting his eyes was unyielding. He moved deliberately to Layla, their hands meeting over the pendant in an unspoken pact of defiance and unity. "We stand on the precipice of a war none of us can escape," Omar said, voice steel, wrapped in velvet. "But this isn't just about power or bloodlines. It's about who we are willing to become." Layla nodded. The weight of their intertwined fate settling like dusk over the desert sands outside. Behind the opulent walls of Zahram Palace, a shadow stirred. A figure whose plans had reached a critical climax. In the darkness, a whispered vow escaped cold lips. They will lose everything, especially the truth. And as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, the pendant pulsed once more, a beacon igniting the first spark of an inferno that would consume friends and foes alike. Tearing apart the empire, piece by piece, the room held its breath beneath the heavy weight of Mariam's warning. The sharp scent of jasmine and oud seemed muted, swallowed by a silence thick as desert dust. Layla's fingertips curled tighter around the pendant, its cold gold grounding her in the chaos of whispered threats and fragile alliances. Omar's dark eyes did not waver as they locked. Onto Mariam's, the clash of iron wills flashing silently between siblings bound by blood but divided by truth. "Enough," he said, voice taut yet commanding. "Every moment spent guarding secrets is a moment lost to our enemies." Mariam's gaze flickered, a flicker of something dangerous and reluctant. "You mistake silence for weakness, brother," she said coldly. "There are betrayals so deep that even speaking their names can unravel a kingdom." Layla stepped forward, the confidence she had summoned moments ago hardening into steel. "Then it's time to expose those betrayals. I'm no longer the shadow behind your throne, Omar. I will face whatever darkness this pendant brings." A slow, almost imperceptible nod passed between Omar and her, a silent pact forged in the fire of shared defiance. The distant murmur of footsteps pulled their attention to the oaken doorway. Khalid entered, his expression sharpened by urgency, worry etched into every line. The fading warmth in the chamber seemed to cool further as his news spilled like poisoned arrows. "The Al-Mazri clan refuses to honor the ceasefire. Rumors of alliances with northern rebels grow louder by the hour. Zahram's borders are no longer safe. Omar's hands tightened into fists at his sides. The silk of his robe stretched slightly over bunched muscles, an outward show of control fighting to mask the tempest beneath. "We cannot wait for war to storm our gates," he said, voice low but firm, the ruler's resolve settling like molten steel. "The rot begins at home, and we must root it out before it spreads." Layla's heart pounded with a fierce rhythm. Fear mingled with a strange hope. She was no longer just a bystander. She was part of this battle. "Now, the pendant," she whispered, eyes never leaving Omar's. "It must hold more than just history. What truth are we dragging into the light?" Omar's gaze flickered to the pendant resting in her palm, a relic etched with the scars of time, a pact made in darkness, a warning veiled as a promise. Those who once wielded its power paid with blood, and so will those who seek to claim it anew. The words landed heavy between them. The palace, with all its gilded splendor, suddenly felt like a cage closing in, walls pressing tighter with unseen schemes. Suddenly, the chamber's fragile calm shattered as the heavy doors slammed open once more. A man rushed in, breath ragged, eyes wild with the urgency of dread. "Sheikh Omar, your private convoy was ambushed near the southern pass. Several guards fallen. The attackers left. A clear warning. Deliver the pendant or watch everything burn. Zahram itself will be razed." The fire in Omar's eyes ignited, fiercely, unyielding. "They believe fear will force us into submission?" He stepped forward, the authority in his stride silencing every thought. "They underestimate what Zahram bears." He reached out, fingertips brushing Layla's over the pendant. The contact surged like a jolt of electricity, a promise forged in desperation. "We stand on the edge of a knife's blade," Omar murmured. "But this blade can sever the chains that bind us, or cut us all down." Layla met his gaze, the tumult of emotions fierce and unspoken. "I will face the flames," she vowed, voice steady against the raging storm. The whisper of silk announced a new presence as Miriam returned, her composed exterior a mask that barely concealed a tempest. "You will regret the path you choose, Layla," she said, her tone ice-hardened by prophecy. "The pendant curses all who touch it. It will bring ruin, not just to enemies, but to those we hold dear." Omar's chest rose sharply, the weight of her words settling like a shadow. The three stood locked in a tense triangle, past, present, and peril converging, as if the very air conspired against them. Layla's thoughts flickered to the countless hidden corridors within Zahram Palace, twisting passages where whispers carried deeper than daggers, and trust was a gamble few dared take. A sudden gust rattled the ornate curtains. Outside, the desert wind howled ominously, carrying with it the scent of dust and impending conflict. Omar's voice broke the spell, softer this time, vulnerable beneath the veneer of command. "You belong here now, Layla, not as a servant, but as my equal in this fight. The secret you hold is our weapon, or our undoing." Her breath caught, the fragile thread binding their souls stretched taut with unspoken fears. As if summoned by the storm brewing within the room, a soft knock echoed against the marble walls. The doors creaked open, revealing a figure wrapped in shadow, a man whose presence sent a cold ripple through both Omar and Layla. His eyes glinted with cold certainty. "The time has come, Sheikh. The truth you seek will unravel more than just old wounds. It will strike at the heart of Zahram itself." Omar straightened, the fire in his gaze sharpening. "Speak plainly. What game do you play?" The man stepped forward, voice low and grim. "There are players beyond your court who refuse peace. They wait for this secret to fall into the wrong hands." Layla's fingers clenched tighter on the pendant, the weight of its destiny heavy in her palm. The chamber seemed to shrink, the grandeur of Zahram Palace dwarfed by the chilling knowledge that they were already ensnared. A breath passed, long, tense, filled with the lightning crackle of impending war. Omar's gaze flicked to Layla again, unyielding yet vulnerable. "Prepare yourself. The shadows you face will demand more than courage. They will try to consume everything we hold sacred." The man's shadow receded into the darkened hall, leaving silence as cold and sharp as a desert night. Layla's eyes never left Omar's. Between them lingered a fragile, fierce promise, not just of survival, but of a reckoning that would consume hearts, kingdoms, and the very soul of Zahram. And beneath the palace's opulent surface, hidden and waiting, the true enemy smiled. For the storm had only just begun. The heavy doors creaked shut behind the shadowed figure, and silence reclaimed the chamber, thick and suffocating. Omar stood rigid, his eyes dark pits of smoldering resolve, as he turned to Layla. The gold pendant lay heavy in her palm, its chill contrasting sharply with the heat pulsing between them. Everything had changed in an instant. No longer maid and master, now partners in a war that threatened to unravel the very soul of Zahram. "Every secret carved into this pendant is a wound." Omar's voice was hoarse, but edged with iron. "Wounds that bled into my family's past, and now threaten to drown our future." He moved closer, the scent of oud and jasmine clinging to him, filling the room with unspoken power. Layla met his gaze, steady despite the tempest roaring, inside her chest. "Then we bleed together." Her words fell like a vow. She tightened her grip on the pendant, the metal pressing cold against her skin, but grounding her resolve. A distant murmur echoed through the ornate halls, a reminder that the palace was never truly silent. Shadows whispered in places no light touched. Omar's shoulders squared as he broke the fragile stillness. "We have no choice now. The enemies we face wear smiles and silk, not armor. Their battlefield is the palace itself." Her eyes flicked towards the heavy cedar doors, each carved pattern a testament to centuries of history. And inside these walls dwell both friend and fiend, cloaked alike. Her voice trembled just enough to betray the fear clenched tight beneath her courage. Omar's gaze softened for a moment, revealing scars deeper than those visible on his skin. Lost too much to secrets. His fingers brushed the pendant again, violently resisting the urge to wrench it free from her hold. This is more than a symbol. It's a curse, a prophecy torn from the scrolls of forgotten kings. The weight between them thickened until Layla dared a whisper. "What is it that you fear most?" A flicker crossed Omar's face, a momentary shatter of his unyielding steel. Losing you in a battle we haven't yet learned to fight. Losing myself to the darkness this truth invites. Her breath caught, the vulnerability in his voice igniting a fierce protectiveness she never anticipated. Then don't lose me. The promise hung unspoken, electrifying the space between them. Suddenly, the palace outside seemed to close in further. The distant clatter of footsteps grew louder, urgent and relentless. Omar's eyes darted toward the threshold, just as Khalid appeared, his expression carved from worry, eyes sharp beneath heavy brows. "Sheikh Omar," Khalid said with no preamble, voice low, urgent. "The southern border is on the brink. The Al-Masri clan refuses the truce. Worse, there are whispers of a secret alliance between them and the northern rebels. If the pendant holds what we think, Zahram's very foundation is in peril." Omar's jaw snapped shut with grim determination. "Then we strike fast, before conspiracies become war." Layla's heart drummed fiercely, mapping a rhythm of fear and defiance. "We can't afford hesitation," she said as she rose, moving closer to Omar's towering form. "Whatever the cost, we stand united." His hand hovered briefly over hers on the pendant, their lived worlds colliding with the weight of destiny. "My enemies believe fear is a weapon," Omar said quietly, "but I will show them that loyalty holds sharper edges." The air grew heavy with tension as the chamber doors threw open once more. Miriam stepped forward, her cold gaze slicing through the thick atmosphere like a dagger. The silence she commanded was absolute. "You underestimate what you hold, Layla." Her voice was a blade, precise and merciless. "This pendant's curse has withered the hearts of kings. It's not just a key, but a sentence." Layla's fingers clenched tighter, defiance sparking within her glare. "Then we rewrite the sentence." The fire in her voice trembled, but it could not be extinguished. Omar's eyes darkened, furious yet burdened by the truth Miriam spoke. "Then let the past be faced openly. No more shadows hiding poison." Miriam's lips pressed thin. "Some truths demand sacrifice, the kind that rips apart families." The words hung frozen, a silent storm brewing among them. Layla swallowed, the palace's rich scent of amber and rose, blending with the metallic taste of fear in her mouth. "We will not falter." She met Omar's gaze, seeking and finding the spark that defied despair. Outside, the sun began its slow descent behind the endless dunes, casting long crimson shadows that seemed to bleed into the chamber. The golden walls glowed with a deceptive warmth, yet beneath their gleam lay a roiling sea of unrest. Without warning, the heavy oak doors rumbled as footsteps drew near. Heavy, deliberate. A figure emerged, a man cloaked not just in fabric, but in a dark reputation. His eyes were like obsidian shards, cold and calculating. "Sheikh Omar," the stranger hissed, "your time to choose is running out. The secret you cradle will either crown you king or drag you to ruin." Omar's hand instinctively tightened on Layla's wrist. "Who sent you?" His words cracked the quiet with the thunder of command. The man's lips curled into a shadowy smile. "Those who wait in the wings, Patience is a rare weapon, but every game has its end. A cold silence fell. Layla felt the pendant pulse beneath her skin as if alive, synchronizing with her own rapid heartbeat. Omar's eyes never wavered, burning with a fire born of desperation and unyielding pride. Then we will decide the end on our terms. The visitor retreated into the growing dusk, swallowed by the twisting corridors. Layla looked up, breath shallow but voice fierce. What now? Omar's face hardened, the fierce shake she knew and feared sharpening anew. Yet beneath it flickered something dangerously close to hope, a promise unspoken but undeniable. The war is inside these walls, he murmured, and the true enemy waits in the shadows, watching, striking when the light fades. As the last rays of sun disappeared, a chilling breeze stirred the curtains, whispering the arrival of a storm neither of them was fully ready to face. And somewhere, in the silent depths of Zahram Palace, the pendant's secret began to unravel, threatening to ignite a flame that would consume every bond, every truth, and perhaps both their hearts. The heavy footsteps faded beyond the towering cedar doors. Yet the chill they left in the air clung stubbornly. Zahram's opulence suddenly felt claustrophobic, a gilded cage designed to trap secrets, lies, and fragile alliances that could crush even the strongest hearts. Omar's voice broke the silence, low and resolute. The enemy we face is no longer at the border. It's inside these walls. His gaze locked onto Layla's, fierceness interlaced with a vulnerability he barely allowed himself to show. And this pendant, he whispered, fingers lightly brushing the cold gold resting in her palm, is the key to everything we fear. Layla swallowed, conscious of the weight pressing not only on her hand, but on her soul. She could almost hear the shadows whispering beneath the palace's marbled floors, warnings poised on the edge of silence. They were no longer mere spectators in a game of affluence and power. They were players whose every move could tilt Zahram toward ruin or redemption. I won't let this kingdom fall apart, she vowed softly. Her eyes traced the intricate engraving on the pendant, an ancient emblem wrapped in forgotten oaths and blood-stained promises. The secrets this holds, we must face them head-on. Omar took a slow step closer, the scent of oud and jasmine rising between them, like a fragile barrier and an invitation all at once. You stand with me now, Layla, not as a shadow, but as an equal. His voice, usually laced with iron, faltered slightly. The battles we fight won't just define our futures, but who we are beneath it all. Their hands hovered over the pendant, a silent promise humming in the space between their fingers. Unseen by either, the palace pulse quickened, its ancient walls absorbing every whispered threat and stolen breath. A sudden knock shattered the fragile calm, sharp and impatient. The doors swung open, admitting Khalid, his usually calm features carved with urgency. Sheikh Omar, he said, voice hoarse, troubling news from the southern frontier. The Al-Mazri clan has broken ranks. Rumors of a pact with the northern rebels spread like wildfire. If the secrets held in that pendant reach the wrong hands, Zahram's foundation will crumble. Omar's jaw clenched, every muscle taut with unyielding will. Then the time for dances and shadows is over. We move, or we fall. Layla's breath quickened. The air seemed to thicken, the golden light of Zahram dimming beneath the weight of imminent storm. "Whatever comes," she said, voice steady, "I am by your side." Before Omar could respond, the heavy doors creaked open again. Miriam stepped inside, her presence colder than the desert night and more cutting than any blade. Her eyes narrowed on the pendant, calculating and wary. "You don't know what you've joined, Layla," Miriam said, her voice slicing through the room. "This pendant, it's not just a relic. It's a curse that has doomed generations. Touching it is to invite death and betrayal." Omar's dark eyes flared, fight igniting within them. "We cannot afford silence now, Miriam. The truth cannot stay buried." Miriam's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Truths like these require sacrifices no heart can fully bear." She looked at Layla with something close to pity, or was it warning? "Are you prepared for what you will lose?" Layla met her gaze without hesitation. "I am, because some truths, no matter the cost, must be faced." A tension pregnant with unspoken history thrummed through the chamber. The palace itself seemed to shudder, a breath held before a lethal storm. Suddenly, a hurried knock echoed through the hall. An advisor, face pale and voice tight, entered with trembling urgency. "Sheikh, there are rumors. Intelligence hints at a traitor within your closest council. Whispers that some align with your enemies." Omar's gaze sharpened, the blaze behind his eyes roaring to life. "So the enemy wears a mask within our very court." His tone was steel, wrapped in velvet menace. "Trust is a luxury we can no longer afford." Layla's fingers clenched tighter on the pendant, the cold metal a cruel reminder of the stakes. "Then we must unmask them before their poison spreads." The advisor nodded grimly, his words unfurling names and whispered alliances, a web of betrayal weaving faster than the desert wind outside. Omar turned to Layla, the fire in his voice fierce but tempered with raw hope. "We stand together, through lies, through blood, through fire." Their eyes met, the unvoiced vow crackling like thunder in the tense air. Before they could speak again, the door slammed open once more. A breathless messenger stumbled in, eyes wide with dread. "Sheikh," he gasped, "your convoy was ambushed near the eastern pass. Several guards dead." The attackers left a chilling message: "Deliver the pendant, or everything you hold dear will burn." The chamber fell into a suffocating silence. Omar's jaw set like stone, his voice a dark promise. "They think threats will break us? They are mistaken." He reached out, their fingers intertwining over the pendant once more, electric and resolute. "This war," Omar whispered, voice thick with fierce determination, "is not just for lands or titles. It is for our souls, and we will not surrender." Layla's pulse pounded in her ears, the room shrinking to the heat between them, the fear and courage rising like desert flames. "Then let the storm come. We will stand tall, even if we fall." A shadow flickered at the threshold, as Miriam's voice cut through the charged silence. "Camel tracks lead to the northern border. Word spreads that the curse of this pendant has awakened old. Ghosts, they will come." Omar's eyes darkened. Then the true battle begins tonight. Layla tightened her grip, heart hammering in rhythm with the palace's pulse. Somewhere deep in Zahram's winding corridors, a cold, merciless smile crept across a hidden face. The pieces were moving. The reckoning was near, and as the sun dipped beyond the dunes, the pendant pulsed once more, a silent drumbeat, heralding a blaze that would consume all: loyalty, love, and a kingdom's fragile soul. The golden hues of the Zahram palace faded as twilight surrendered to the first stars. In the vast chamber, where power and secrets had long intertwined, a new dawn was quietly shaping, a dawn born from vulnerability, trust, and unwavering courage. Omar al-Fahad stood strong, no longer alone in his burden. His eyes, once veiled with cold authority, now shone with the light of a man who had faced both his demons and his destiny. Layla, the woman who had once been a shadow in these opulent halls, was now beside him, equal in strength, partner in purpose. Their fingers remained entwined across the aged pendant's surface, the symbol that had threatened to unravel everything, now a badge of their shared fight. The weight of its history had once pressed heavily against their souls, but together they transformed it into a beacon of hope. The bitter storms of betrayal had passed, not without scars, but with lessons carved deeply into their hearts. Miriam's warnings had been sharp, her fears rooted in truths long buried beneath layers of silence. Yet even her icy resolve softened as she witnessed the fierce alliance forged in that chamber. Khalid's steady presence reminded them of all that lay beyond the palace walls. The fragile peace, trembling on the edge of chaos. But the whispered threats, the shadows of conspiracies, had been met head-on. Omar's decisive purge of traitors within his court had reclaimed the throne of trust. The enemy's whispers were silenced by the roar of unity. Layla's steps echoed through the grand hall as she walked beside Omar, the warmth between them melting the last traces of isolation. She no longer wore the mantle of a servant. Her posture spoke of dignity earned through trials, her eyes reflecting a deep well of resilience. Together, they had crossed the desert of doubt and into a future forged by truth. In a quiet garden, bathed in moonlight, just beyond the palace walls, the soft fragrance of blooming jasmine mingled with the cool night air, a silent testament to renewal. Here, Omar and Layla paused, their gazes meeting beneath the open sky that stretched endlessly like the promise ahead. "You've changed everything," Omar said, his voice low yet filled with wonder. "Not just my world, but who I am." Layla smiled, the first genuine and unguarded smile that had broken through the fortress around his heart. "You've shown me strength beyond wealth and power, a strength that comes from choosing to be vulnerable." The silence between them was no longer heavy with secrets, but light with possibility. The pendant lay nestled in Layla's palm, a relic now reclaimed from darkness, its curse transformed into a shield. Behind them, the palace hummed softly with renewed life. Where once tension had clenched the air like a vice, now flowed a peaceful rhythm, a kingdom restored by honesty and the bravery to confront shadows together. As dawn crept over the horizon, painting the desert in streaks of rose and gold, Omar pulled Layla close. The sun's gentle light kissed their faces, illuminating not just their features, but the new chapter they had bravely authored. "Whatever storms come," Omar whispered, "we face them as one." Layla's heart soared, the past's chains broken at last. In his arms, she found not a master, but a partner, someone who had learned that true power lay in love, trust, and forgiveness. Their laughter mingled with the morning breeze, a melody woven from hope reclaimed. A future awaited them, vast as the desert sands, yet intimate like the beat of a shared heart. And as Zahram's towers stood silhouetted against the rising sun, the palace no longer felt like a gilded prison, but a sanctuary, a place where love had conquered secrets, and where two souls had finally found their home.